Short answers to big questions. Well, if I haven't seen a giant red flag before, I certainly have now, as this more than likely translates to stupid answers to even stupider questions, although there is one short answer to the biggest question, should I have a drink? The answer to that, of course, being, I already have one, what are you, new here?
People often ask me, Andy, why do you keep calling atheism a religion?
Oh, I know the answer to that, and it's less of a big question and more of a no-duh. You keep calling atheism a religion because you're kind of thick. Because that's literally the only reason to do so, as the only way you can not understand what atheism is to such a horrific degree is that you have no idea how words work and you just go with whatever soaring sounds you hear in your head for answers instead of, actually learning what things are and mean. That's how we get to the big stupid, and the only cure for that is fire. Fire water, anyway.
Isn't atheism just a lack of belief in God? It's not a religion.
Correct. Cool. Time to go home. Everyone, we are done here and we don't need to carry on with this video. And I know he's not going to stop there, but it's just going to be so dumb and I don't want to do it. My last brain cell really can't do with the damage it's about to receive. Although, I guess it should be fine. It is a very big brain cell from eating all the other ones. There shall be only one, etc., etc.
Well, I'm afraid that's wrong.
Of course it's wrong that the definition of atheism, that what atheism is, and that the only thing that all atheists share in common, being that they lack belief in God and have basically nothing that binds every last one of them together, means that they are all part of a giant religion with doctrine and a place of worship and sacred objects and everything else, even though, they don't, and that's stupid. But what do I know? Apart from, what words mean.
That actually the more you look at atheism, the more you realise it's far more than just the lack of a belief in God. Let me show you why.
Oh, looking forward to it. But if the first thing that you show me is something that I can either find multiple examples of many atheists not doing, saying, or being, or is some stupid point that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, then you're going to have to do me a favour and just stop. And I don't mean him, I mean you, dear theist watching this, because you're trying to figure out how to call atheists religious. Because some dumbass told you it was totally a good and clever point that will totally debunkerize atheism. It isn't, it doesn't, and the sooner your lot stop trotting out this incredibly silly talking point, the sooner I can stop making fun of you for it. And start making fun of you for other things, like that haircut. Jesus. Will your mum do that with a bowl?
If atheism simply meant the absence of belief in God...
Fucking if! That is what it means. But no, do go on. Sorry for interrupting. Definitely not doing that because I want to avoid all the brain damage. No. Or avoid all the brain damage.
The first problem is it would have some very peculiar entailments.
Very peculiar entailments. Yeah, like did you know those so-called atheists, they actually pretend that God isn't real. I find this very strange because I believe in God, therefore that is what everyone else must believe, therefore I have a very large brain that can do the big clever all the time.
It would mean that rocks, small kittens, rubber chickens, Richard Dawkins' left foot are all atheists.
Oh, for f***'s sake, not this shit again. But okay, fine, let's just say that this isn't a silly thing to say for silly people. So fucking what? In this context, that's like saying humans aren't made out of carbon because there are things made out of carbon that aren't human. Like, yeah, there are, but it's still irrelevant to the conversation being had and just makes it seem like you can't unwrap your head from around the idea that is unrelated. And that does not bode well for the rest of this video.
Because all of those things lack a belief in God.
But, and here's my counter to that idea, there are also no theist versions of those things. So, who gives a shit? It is such an incredibly pointless line of reasoning to pursue because unless there are theist rocks, small kittens, rubber chickens, or anyone's left, right, or middle foot, then calling them atheists is a complete waste of everybody's time. What do you mean you haven't got a middle foot? But then how do you stand like a tripod to stop from falling over when you're drunk?
That's a very counterintuitive conclusion.
Yes, it is. Therefore, maybe that's not the conclusion that you should be reaching or even considering when it comes to humans who are atheists, you dense motherfucker. motherfucker.
And it strongly suggests that atheism is far more than just the absence of a belief in God. That can't be the definition.
Oh my God, yes it is. And the furthest I will stretch to shut you up is an atheist person is a person who lacks belief in a God. Do you see how that didn't actually affect what we were talking about at all? Although now I have given you that, I am sure you are totally going to display that famous religious restraint and not run away with it, jumping to completely ridiculous conclusions or anything like that. No.
A second problem with the idea that atheism is merely the lack of belief in God
is that all religious people know atheism means I believe in God and I hate him and I want to go to hell, which I also know is real and also know will be the most terrible, awful suffering possible. But I'm not going to not avoid that by saying things that I know to be true as true. Also something about eating babies. Although that last one is actually true, so fair enough.
Is that if that were the case, how could it form part of someone's core identity? ...
What? I had to write ... in my script there to demonstrate that it did in fact take a few moments and a couple of replays of that bit to get to the point where I understood that doesn't make any fucking sense, aka whacked. The reason that atheism can be an important part of someone's identity is the same reason that saying rocks are atheist is stupid. And I am amazed that you managed to f this up so much. There are lots and lots and lots of other people who are theist, who make theism part of their core identity to the point that many people find the very concept of atheism completely unrelatable to them. And much of popular culture is influenced by that worldview. So holding a position that stands opposed to this thing that can often be rammed down your throat every single day of your life is likely to become a pretty important part of how one might see themselves. Because duh!
You see, I don't believe in Father Christmas. I don't believe in the Tooth Fairy. But I don't go around introducing myself to people as an A-Tooth Fairyan.
Oh my God, you are so fucking dense. For so many reasons. Okay, number one, it's actually pretty unusual for people to say, hi, I'm an... well, anything really. Are there people who do that? Yeah, sure, including atheists and vegans and religious people too. Opening with whatever. But 99% of the time, when you hear that kind of detail about someone, it's because that's the conversation going on. It's called context, motherfucker. Learn to do it. And two, no one says they don't believe in Santa, Tooth Fairy, etc. as an adult, because kids do say it, again, duh. Because it's an understood fact that we all pretty much agree on, and it would be far more unusual to find someone who made it to adulthood with those beliefs intact, and if that wasn't the case, you would sure as shit see a lot of people talking about the fact that Santa doesn't real, and what have you. So of course, since religious is still highly weld, of course it comes up. It would be super weird if it didn't.
That's not what you'll find on my Twitter profile.
But you might find, oh, I don't know, the opposite of that. And it's not like people grew up around other people who did the same, and then when they stopped believing that shit, just wanted to make it clear that they had stopped. It comes back to an old adage that I'm going to make far better with the addition of whiskey. Atheism is to religion as gaseous helium is to a drinks mixer. It just isn't, and it would be absurd to try and use it that way.
I regularly meet people who introduce themselves to me as I am an atheist.
You, a person who is clearly a preacher and probably spends a lot of time preaching and telling atheists very stupid things about themselves that aren't true, those same people will often walk up to you and identify themselves as such. That doesn't make sense. And surely since you in this very common position of normalcy get this reaction so often, it must apply to all other situations in life. I mean, to be fair, I can't count the amount of times I have seen a dock worker minding his own business when suddenly, out of nowhere, a ninja atheist drop kicks him off the pier shouting, God doesn't real. Every day, I swear.
It forms their core identity.
No, it doesn't. Are you kidding me? It forms part of it, sure, but an atheist is so much more than the fact that they don't believe in Jeeb. That's why, and get this right, there are many multitudes of different kinds of atheists. It's almost like that idea is merely one facet of that person, and it affects more or less of their identity depending on their other beliefs. Almost like how you would be a fucking moron if you said all theists share the same set of beliefs beyond the God real though one. But I know, thinking is hard, so we should just say stupid things and act like that's them facts instead.
Well, if atheism conforms part of someone's identity, it is clearly more than lack of belief in God.
How do you figure that? I mean, part of my personal identity is that I really like video games. Now, depending on what I do with that information, it's a bigger or smaller part. But it's not some philosophical grand high whatever that changes to very nature of reality for me. I just like video games. You'll find the same things with music or food or anything, and it's only really being religious that makes it something in the way that you are trying to form it. It's like you can only see the world from that perspective. You know what they say? Not having the ability to put yourself in other people's shoes makes you the big smart and everyone wrong for not agreeing with you right away.
That's also demonstrated by my third piece of evidence.
Well, I am expecting a lot since the last two were so very compelling and in no way extremely asinine to the point where I'm pretty sure my one brain cell broke in half and shot off in two directions. One to join the circus and the other to start selling NFTs of tulips.
And it's that atheists and secularists are now starting churches.
Yep, that's a thing. I mean, it's still not even close to a good point for Matey Boy here, because A, when they say churches, they are simply using a word that presents an idea, not a literal place of worship. Just a community where people who don't believe in God can still benefit, and I use that word loosely because people are the worst, from hanging out with other people. But B, that's still not all atheists. Not even close. It's not something that I would ever consider taking part in. AKA, hashtag, not all atheists. You moron.
Yeah, they really are. A few years ago in London, England, a group of atheists came together, took over a deconsecrated church in London, and they started something called the Sunday Assembly.
The bastards, how dare they do that and still not be religious? I mean, seriously, they aren't. Because let's be frank, aside from the terrifying lack of alcohol, that's the same thing as when groups meet at a bar due to a shared interest. It's not suddenly a religious event when a bunch of Magic the Gathering players do that, and that's basically what they're doing. Just on ex-church land, probably because the irony appealed to them. And I do respect the shit out of irony, it is my jam.
They meet together on Sunday mornings, they sing secular songs, they listen to inspirational talks about science, they formed an atheist church.
And yet, that is still not the same thing as atheism being a religion. See, the biggest issue you seem to be having is that you are completely disregarding all the things that makes your religion a religion. A religion is far more than simply the belief in the concept of God, and even just meeting up. It's ritual and specific doctrines and beliefs that, if you don't hold countless numbers of those as well, you aren't doing that religion properly. But you can hold so many beliefs contrary to every other atheist ever, aside from no God belob, and you will still be atheist. Again, I just don't think you know how to words.
And other such atheist churches are springing up in major cities around the world.
As unsurprising as it is depressing, not one of them is the Church of Sir Sick, where people come together and talk about how good looking I am, and donating all their whiskey supplies in order to appease me so I don't come down from my mighty sky perch and rain angry piss down upon all their heads, destroying everything in sight because of its corrosive nature. My doctor says it's not supposed to do that, but just because he has a god complex doesn't mean he gets to say that to me, a god, without the complex, obviously.
So atheism looks like a religion. It is behaving like a belief system. It has churches, it has creeds, it has communities, it has gurus. It really is a religion, a belief system.
And that's where you're missing the fundamental thing that makes atheism not a belief system or anything like that. And why you are either thicker than two short planks glued together with pig shit or are just extremely dishonest. Because there are atheistic ideologies that do act a lot like religions. I would never deny that. I would still argue that they probably still aren't religions, but that's not relevant to mine or your point. Because your point is that atheism is the religion. And my point is, that's simply not a statement that even comes close to making sense. Because that's like saying theism is the religion. That would be about one of the most ignorant statements a person or God-man could make. There is no religion of theism. Religions are theistic. But we would be mixing terms to describe things the other way round and just come off as pretty f***ing stupid. And mate, you sound really f***ing stupid right now. Almost as stupid as me. That's a stretch.
Now, I say that not to belittle my atheist friends.
No, of course not. You say that to belittle yourself, apparently. Stupid atheists doing things that I think are religion. What a bunch of dumbasses. Don't they know that religion is dumb and only stupid people like me do that? Losers.
But just to encourage them to kind of wake up and smell the coffee. You see, if atheism is a belief system, there are some entailments that follow. And one of the biggest ones is this. If atheism is a religion or a belief system, you can't simply assume it. You have to give reasons for it. You have to give evidence.
1. Religion and belief systems are not the same thing. 2. Atheism is neither of those. So it does not require anything of the sort aside from an individual's lack of belief in whatever you are claiming. It's your claim. You prove it. Stop pretending atheism is something it isn't. You need to wake up and smell the whiskey. Just because you don't like the fact that you have the ridiculous, untestable, unprovable claim.
Because if you're not willing to do that, you fall foul of an aphorism once coined by the late new atheist writer himself, Christopher Hitchens, who in his book God is Not Great wrote these words: "That which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence."
So, considering the contents of this video, the claim that atheism is a religion can be dismissed completely out of hand, because illogical, shitty evidence is about as good as no evidence at all. Well done.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel, Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the